are we right on the cusp of seeing some sort of an Edmonton Oilers trade? That is what this article on Philadelphia Hockey Now goes out there and proposes, and I wanted to dive into these ideas in a video here today. So, without further ado, I have to get the disclaimers out there. It's always like this, I record my videos the night before the mornings they are uploaded, so if there is some sort of a trade, if there is an acquisition, if there is a signing, if Kevin Shattenkirk or whomever else around the NHL free agent pool or somebody on the trade market gets added onto the Oilers roster, then okay, this entire video doesn't really make as much sense anymore. But, as it stands right now, before any sort of a trade has gone down, I wanted to go out there and propose the idea of a Philadelphia Flyers trade. Two orange teams potentially making a move. Why are we talking about this? Well, because of an article published on Jonathan Bailey on Philadelphia Hockey Now yesterday. The Flyers emerge as potential Oilers trade partner. Let's go out there and read what Jonathan Bailey has to say about the Oilers and this idea. The article starts out by asking the question, why? Why have Philadelphia emerged as potential Oilers trade partners? Well, it's because Oilers forward Evander Kane is expected to undergo surgery soon to repair a sports hernia, meaning that Kane and his $5.125 million cap hit could come off the books if Edmonton uses their LTIR space. Additionally, Oilers broadcaster Bob Stauffer recently posted to his Twitter account that we should fully expect the Oilers to be in the market for a second pairing right D at some point, preferably with little term left, Stauffer concluded. Included is the tweet wherein Bob Stauffer writes this out. Great to see the Oilers' key management people and Chris Knobloch all in Penticton. Fully expect the Oilers to be in the market for a second pairing right D at some point, preferably one with a little term left. So, with this idea in mind, it's not really a new one, right? The Oilers could use an extra defenseman, they got Ty Emberson, they traded away Cody Ceci, they lost out on Philip Broberg. Is Troy Stecher the guy who's going to come in here and save the day? Who really knows? I would understand if the Oilers wanted to go after another right-handed D-man. With this in mind, let's continue with what Bailey writes here. Many Western Conference teams have scouted the Philadelphia Flyers a good amount over the last year or so, and the Oilers were one of them. The one name that fits Stauffer's list of criteria is Flyers defenseman Rasmus Ristolainen, who has 3 years remaining on his contract at $5.1 million a year. Coincidentally, that cap hit is almost exactly the same as Evander Kane's. It is worth noting that Ristolainen is coming off a season-ending tricep injury that has not played a game since February 10th. A Stanley Cup contender like the Oilers would be taking a huge risk in a potential Ristolainen trade, given the fact that he has not shown that he's back to his old self following the surgery and subsequent rehab. Now, before we dive into the rest of what the article says, let's go out there and hypothesize what this could look like. Rasmus Ristolainen as a potential Oilers target, 29 years old, 6'4", 220, big right-handed defensively minded dude, and he's making $5.1 million. If there was some sort of a trade, I would have to assume that the Philadelphia Flyers retain some salary here. Unfortunately, I don't think Ristolainen is anywhere near that $5-point-something million AAV caliber of play. Maybe he was at some point when he was posting up 4 straight 40-point years with the Buffalo Sabres from 2014 to 2019. But ever since his days in Philadelphia, he has been a shell of his former self, not really as effective and not really as worthwhile for the dollar. This previous season, he had 4 points in 31 games played, and as the article notes, he did miss out on a good chunk of the year. However, he is 2 seasons removed from being a 20-point guy in 74 games too. Now, honestly, you're not getting Rasmus Ristolainen because you want production. If he's going to replace the minutes that Cody Ceci had, you want this guy to be a defensively minded guy who can just make the right plays and not really be too much of a leaky hole defensively. And honest to say, I feel like for Rasmus Ristolainen, he has become not really all too great the past few years. I mean, there was a time when he was putting in points and, really making himself worthwhile, but he was never really like an amazing defensively minded presence. He was just big and physical. And I think for a lot of defensemen in the NHL, you can get away with not being necessarily the best defensively, not really being the best shutdown guy if you're big and physical and you have those tools. Tyler Myers, I think, got a free pass to a huge $6 million AAV contract because of that specifically. So for Ristolainen, I think if he were to get traded to Edmonton, there would need to be some salary retained here, and there would need to be a lot of research. The Oilers would need to make sure that Ristolainen is the right guy to fill in those minutes. Heck, maybe it's not even fill the minutes. Maybe it's not straight up replace Cody Cece's role. Maybe it's try to diversify things a little bit. Have Emberson and a guy like Stecher and another PTO guy and Ristolainen all kind of rotating around in the bottom few spots in the decor, so you get a little bit more oomph and leg room, so you don't tire guys out too quickly. Maybe that's an idea that is worth exploring for the Edmonton Oilers, or maybe just the straight-up idea of taking on Ristolainen because you believe in him, because you think he can get back to form, because you think the surgery has him all healed up. Maybe if you're just a big believer in this dude, that idea works too. But honestly, I think if Ristolainen was somebody the Oilers would be looking at, he would not necessarily be the top guy. I mean, what? Kevin Shattenkirk is still available right now, right? Not to say that a PTO or a free agent is automatically better than Ristolainen, but just circumstantially, I mean, the guy is coming off of that surgery. He's just recently entered being able to play again, and it's not really like the most seamless transition anyway, so it's a lot to think about for the Edmonton Oilers, especially if Bob Stouffer's going out there and saying that a defenseman trade is on the horizon. They want to get that number 2 right D. Of course, though, if we are talking about this from the Philadelphia Flyers' point of view, well, all we gotta do is turn over to the article and read what Bailey has to say here. Although the Flyers have managed to get the best out of Ristolainen under multiple coaches like John Tortorella and Brad Shaw, the organization may feel slightly more inclined to move Ristolainen if a suitable offer comes in due to his age. Ristolainen will turn 30 years old shortly after the start of the regular season on October 27th, and with young defensemen like Emil Andre, Ronnie Attard, and Adam Jennings knocking on the door for an opportunity, the Flyers may have to make a move one way or another. And that is not even to mention Jamie Drysdale, who is already going to be given a role, Oliver Bonk, who is there too. Honestly, the Flyers do have a pretty stable long-term defense core. I like a lot of their younger guys. Ristolainen, though, making a lot of money for a pretty decent amount of time, is definitely still going to be in the picture by the time guys like Jamie Drysdale are top defensemen. So maybe there is an incentive for the Philadelphia Flyers to make this trade sooner rather than later. The article then writes here that one last thing to consider in a potential Oilers trade is the fact that the Oilers are currently estimated to being $829,763 over the NHL salary cap. A resolution to the Ryan Johansson contract termination debacle does not appear to be immediately forthcoming, so the Flyers may have to make a corresponding move to get under the salary cap by the start of the regular season. Ristolainen scored 1 goal, 3 assists, and 4 points in 31 appearances for the Flyers last year. So even if the Philadelphia Flyers retain 50% of Ristolainen's deal, they will be getting enough dollars off the books to getting that salary cap worked out. But I guess that's just some extra leverage for the Oilers' point of view, if you wanted to say that. At the same time, though, because the Oilers need the defenseman, it might be worth saying that there's some leverage on the opposite side as well. Maybe this is why the article was written in the first place, right? Because it helps out both sides. There are some very notable and obvious needs that both teams could be going through right now, and a move like this just makes that a lot easier to stomach. So, for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Rasmus Ristolainen and the idea of him potentially getting traded to the Edmonton Oilers? Do you think this is a possibility? Do you think it's realistic? If you're an Edmonton fan, what are your thoughts on the idea of trading away some assets to getting this guy? Is he the player that you think should be filling out that right side decor behind Evan Bouchard? Is it Ristolainen, Bouchard, Ekholm, and then Darnell Nurse on your top 4? Or would you rather give some extra minutes to a guy like Ty Emberson or a Troy Stecher or whomever else would be available in the market instead? What are your thoughts on Bob Stouffer's report that a trade for a right-handed defenseman seems to be coming soon, and whether or not you think Ristolainen could fit the bill? Flyers fans, what do you want from Edmonton to make a trade like this go through? Do you even care about the return? Do you just want to get this guy the heck off of your team? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.